Hello, my name is Tina Hilding, and I live at 411 North Howard in Moscow. Thank you for providing this opportunity to speak with you. Some of you may remember me from earlier this summer.
Your Honor,
if
she's going to discuss
this is exactly actually the topic that I want to speak on, so I will continue if that's okay.
No, hang on.
It's something that's hearing before you tonight, Your Honor.
I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I have lived in Moscow for nearly 20 years. I have paid taxes, volunteered, and donated in many ways to this community, mostly quietly. My husband and I are significant supporters of the arts, and music in particular. I am a huge Moscow booster, and especially am a supporter of local downtown Moscow businesses. I haven't been involved in any big issues previous to this. I haven't caused a whole lot of trouble around town. In previous life, years ago, I used to cover City Hall as a cub reporter. I sat through a couple years of weekly city council meetings with plenty that were contentious, so I am quite familiar with how the public process should occur. As a longtime citizen with some experience in community governance, I am amazed at the public process I've recently experienced. It feels like the public has been forgotten. After a recent hearing, I had legitimate concerns about a project's negative impacts on our downtown. When I decided to appeal the decision, I honestly was amazed at how I was treated. Perhaps you didn't intend to make me feel like I was a troublemaker, but one council member said he thought I was part of a vast conspiracy and that I had ulterior motives. The council spent a total of 6 minutes discussing 4 appeals, one of which was mine. One council member said they were all the same.
I'm going to cut you off.
I want you to know, I'm talking about my experience, and I think if it's okay, I'd like to continue.
Please, Miss.
I worked many, many long hours in my spare time to prepare to speak to the council.
Suggest you call a recess?
In a respectful and gracious manner.
Recess, ma'am.
I followed all the rules that were laid. Well, what I was going to say is, I wondered, is this how you treat your public?
Well, no, I'll explain. I don't think you understand the difference between the judicial and the legislative process.
Right.
And this is quasi-judicial, and there's a legal
Right.
finding to it, but you need to step away from the podium.
But what I'm just saying is how I was treated.
I know. I can definitely bring you up at some other point, but this is not the proper
Okay,
venue.
I'm a concerned, engaged citizen who's been an active member of this community.
Miss Hilding, would you please sit down, Miss Hilding? Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk just a moment about quasi-judicial and legislative procedures. And we're not going to take public comment on what may or may not happen with the new St. Andrews. And I'm going to let you explain, Rod, our city attorney, the difference between quasi-judicial and legislative. And so, and before Rod starts talking about this, I'm going to let everybody know that if somebody comes up and starts talking about it, I'm going to ask them to please sit down, because that's not what this hearing is about. Now, the public comment period, we do appreciate people coming, letting us know their names, where their addresses are, and as long as it's something that we're not doing this evening or in front of the Board of Adjustments or PNC, we'll be more than happy to hear with you. Rod, I'll let you explain to the ladies and gentlemen out here.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think a lot of this a misunderstanding is what the role is of the council is during this process. Right now, the council is acting under the quasi-judicial process, and so basically council is acting as judges. Judges are not allowed to go and get all the information that they want. They can only get what is brought before the record at a proper time during the proceedings. The participation of the public happened at the beginning, back in April 25th, when the chair of the Board of Adjustment opened up the public hearing for public comment. That's the time and place for people to come and have their place to speak, to be heard. When it closes, that part of the hearing, no more public input. Then it's the board that makes the determination. And when in the process, I'll explain it to you a little bit later about how we got through this process. But a lot of people don't understand. They think that because you're elected council members, that they can always just come up and you should be able to hear everything. But that is in your role as a legislator. But you have dual roles in different times. But this one, you are acting as a quasi-judicial panel that you can only look at the record and you're not allowed to get any information other than what is in the public record. So when people come to the podium because they want to have their say because they think that they weren't treated properly, That is the process. There was a time and place that has passed. If the council hears new information at this point, could taint the process, and if any of the parties or anybody appeals to district court and gets a chance to be heard by district court, if you guys have information that wasn't in the public record at the proper time, then you guys have been tainted, and then the decision could be tainted. And so my understanding, or I understand that people don't understand the difference between quasi-judicial process and your normal legislative process.
Okay, with that, we'll carry on, and I will reopen this back up for public comment. Anyway, there's 10 minutes left. If you would like to come up, and please state your name, address, and what's on your mind.
I'm Debra Sullivan, 121 North Polk. I was not actually going to speak at all tonight, but now I would just like to remind all of you that you're public servants. You work for the public. The public is not your enemy. I'm not your enemy. Tina is not your enemy. I would like to remind you that the city staff works for you all, and for me, and for everybody here, everyone in the public. Every one of you here tonight is here to serve the concerned public who's here. We're the taxpayers in this community and, in fact, pay your salaries. So I stepped up after actually just seeing what just happened, and I just hope that other people who have the courage to come and speak are encouraged to do so and are listened to, regardless of whether you agree with them or not. I didn't hear any new information, but that's beside the point. I just wanted to comment to please be open to hearing from the public, and I hope that you don't shut people down or allow that to happen from outside influences. We're all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy.
Good evening. I'm Joanne Bonita, 203 South Howard. As I was driving my husband over to Mountain View Park to look at the eclipse today, I was thinking how wonderful Moscow is, not only because it's beautiful and safe and friendly, but because every individual is accorded respect and given consideration. You don't have to be rich and have $1 million. You don't have to be well connected, but you'll be respected and listened to, and that's been my experience. But everyone has to feel that they are heard and fairly treated. And that's what we all understand judicial procedure to be about. Lately, this confidence has felt shaky. Serious and important questions have gone unanswered. It seems that we sit here and we see big decisions made on the basis of statements and evidence that may be questionable and may not even be true, and then there's nothing we can do about it. And that's not acceptable, and it's not the Moscow way. We look to those who are elected and those they have hired to protect and stand up for due process and for the right of individuals to be heard and answered, even when it's inconvenient and uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.